E como neste segmento temos também convidados internacionais, vamos fazer a conversa em inglês e começamos a olhar para Let's Look to the Future of Energy with our special guest and keynote speaker. It's Mr. Albert Chung, Head of Global Analysis and Bloomberg New Energy Finance. Albert, welcome to Portugal. I mean, Hello? Are you hearing me? Yeah, now it's perfect.
Yes.
I'm saying welcome to Portugal. You can see our sunshine today is beautiful. But anyway, we have to do this time. We have virtual conversation. Next time, probably you could be here. Let's talk about energy. Let's hear your thoughts about this important sector, this important issue for all the world.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be speaking to you today from here in London, and hopefully next time I can be there in Portugal. It's one of my favorite places to visit, and hope I can be there again soon. I'm going to be giving a short talk about the future of energy and what I call the race to net zero, because I believe that we are in a race to achieve net zero. And I'll be leaving you with three key messages, which hopefully will be very memorable to you. And the first key message is that technology and economics are driving the energy transition. This is actually the first wind turbine to be installed as part of the Windfloat Atlantic project off the coast of Portugal. It's one of the world's first floating offshore wind projects. And that turbine is an 8 megawatt turbine. So it's probably about 150 meters tall, the size of an office block. And it is floating simply, not fixed to the seabed, but on a floating platform, which is an incredible innovation, which will open up much more of the world's oceans to be able to generate renewable power. And it's just one example of the amazing technology developments being seen in the renewable energy space today. And it's really just the tip of the iceberg, because we at Bloomberg NEF, we've been tracking the development of renewables for more than 15 years. And we've seen the costs of these technologies fall by amazing amounts. Solar modules are now 90% cheaper than they were 10 years ago. Onshore wind turbines 60% cheaper, lithium-ion batteries almost 90% cheaper as well. And these technologies are not only getting cheaper, they're also getting better. We can convert more sunlight into electricity. We can capture more wind with a turbine. We can store more energy in the same amount of battery material than we could just a few years ago. And that's really what's driving the change that we see in the industry. And because of these amazing technological advances and the scale and all of that, it's driving a fundamental change in the economics of energy. As you can see on this map, in many of the countries in the world now, either wind, which is in blue, or solar, which is in yellow, is the cheapest way of generating power now in many countries in the world. We think that 2/3 of the world's people now live in a country where either wind or solar is the cheapest form of electricity available. And a similar thing is going to happen with electric vehicles soon as battery costs come down. So because of these amazing advances and the changing economics being driven by the technology, we see new records being broken every year. In 2020, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, more than 200 gigawatts of wind and solar generation were installed around the world. So that's like 200 nuclear power plants worth of energy being installed from wind and solar. And that number, in just 1 year, that's more than all of the wind and solar installed before 2010. So it gives you an idea of the rate of change. And on the electric vehicle side, we saw 3 million electric vehicles sold last year. That's growth of about 40%. Again, during the middle of a pandemic, when the overall vehicle market dropped by about a quarter, EVs grew by about 40% and will grow by the same again, up to 4 million this year. So although the numbers are still small, 5% of global car sales are electric vehicles, 10% of global power is wind or solar. Those numbers are moving very quickly. Now we see companies reshaping themselves to capture these opportunities. EDP is a great example, investing heavily into renewable generation, not only domestically, but also internationally, investing in electricity networks that will be needed to transfer that power, and also in energy services for the end user, like energy efficiency or rooftop solar and storage or electric vehicle charging and things like that. And really following the same pattern that we see across many European and US energy companies as well. And we see the same thing happen increasingly with oil companies as well. We think that international oil and gas companies invested somewhere around $12 billion in clean energy last year. A little bit down from 2019, actually, because of the pandemic, but still a significant amount of capital now being allocated away from oil and away from gas into technologies like wind and solar and hydrogen and carbon capture and storage. And the leading companies are all European, by the way. So Total, Equinor, Shell, Repsol, and of course Galp as well being leaders in this area. So a lot of progress being made. And my second key message is that ambition is rising. One of the first things that the new US President Joe Biden did when he took office was to call a global summit of world leaders to talk about how to do more, how to move faster on climate change. And during that meeting, he announced that the US will adopt a new target to reduce its carbon emissions by more than 50% by 2030. That target is clearly much more ambitious than under President Trump, but it's also much more ambitious than it was under President Obama. And I think that's really important to remember, that ambition really is rising year on year. And we see a very clear trend now towards net zero. If you count up all the countries that have made a commitment to reach net zero by 2050 or by 2060, that's the US, China, Europe, Japan, South Korea. These countries together amount to more than half of the world's carbon emissions. And these net zero targets are a complete game changer, because we used to talk about reduce emissions by 60%, reduce emissions by 80%. And if that's your target, then every business, every CEO thinks, oh, I can have a slice of the last 20%. I can still emit a little bit. I can have the last 20%. But if you say that the target is zero or net zero, every business, every CEO has to pay attention, has to find a way to meet zero in their sector. And I think that's an absolute change of mindset that we've seen in the last couple of years. So what that means is, first of all, we need to get renewables to 100%. We need to get electric vehicles to 100%. But that's just the beginning. Because even if we take all of the carbon out of the power system and we electrify all of our road vehicles, we've still only tackled less than half of the carbon emissions problem. We still need to look at how do we produce iron and steel? How do we heat buildings? We need to look at chemicals, cement, aviation, shipping, and agriculture. All of these activities are carbon-intensive activities. And so we need to address those through other means. And we think that some of the interesting solutions out there include things like hydrogen and carbon capture. We think that green hydrogen in particular, that is hydrogen produced from water using renewable power, could be cost effective increasingly by 2030, and certainly by 2050 could be cost competitive against grey hydrogen produced from fossil fuels, and even against natural gas in some countries. And we think the future costs of carbon capture could come down to somewhere from $30, $50, $80 per ton of CO2 of carbon capture. And that will be really interesting for areas like cement, where there really is no other solution. And we already see carbon prices in Europe, for example, hitting 50 euros per ton. So that's going to bring some of these technologies into the market as well. I'm trying to advance the slides. Okay. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, perfectly.
So is it working now?
Yeah, it's working. Go on.
Okay, great. Apologies for that.
That's okay.
So what if the world reached zero or get close to zero by 2050? We've run a scenario to look at what that could look like. And as I said, you would need much more clean power, and you'd need more power to power electric vehicles, electric heating, etc. You'd also need to generate a huge amount of hydrogen. And in this scenario where you focus on power and hydrogen, you need 800 million tons of hydrogen production by 2050. And if you want to produce that from power, you would need to build the entire power generation sector of the world. Again, you need all of that power generation again to produce the hydrogen needed to meet the demand from steel, from cement, from shipping, from aviation, and so on and so forth. And with that, And in that scenario, I'm going to keep going. My screen's frozen, but I'm hoping you can still hear me.
Yeah,
I'm
we
just
have
going to keep talking.
some beautiful cars, so go on. We're
And
watching.
in that scenario, okay. Okay.
Albert, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you need help? I can tell you what we are watching right now. Because it's not frozen over here.
Okay. Okay.
Which slide do you need?
So,
we were at the cars, the speed cars.
I should be on slide 12.
Okay. We have some problems
Okay.
with, yeah.
So
now
I'll
we have
keep
the
talking.
Okay. Which one do you need?
Okay.
It's the 12th. We are at the 12th. Which one do you need? Because I can talk with my director here and he can change it for the audience. Albert, can you hear me?
I'm really sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
Yeah,
Just,
I can't really hear you, but
that's okay. Just
I'll keep going.
Okay, do that and tell me which number do you need and we can put over here.
Okay.
I think it's this
So
one.
on
It's
slide
number 12. Oil and
in this
gas
world
demand.
that I painted a picture of.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So
It's
on that
this one,
slide,
so go on, go on.
What we see is in a world like that, you can stay well below a 2-degree scenario. You can stay even below 1.75 degrees if we can adopt large amounts of hydrogen, clean power, and so on. So if we move forward to slide 13,
Okay,
my last key message is that we need to move much, much faster. And as a motor racing fan, I've been very excited to see the developments on Formula E and how that's progressing. But the slide is really meant to represent that we are in a race against time to reach net zero. Moving on to slide 14. This really is a problem of our generation. We like to think about climate change as something that happens over a century, many decades, but really the vast majority of human carbon emissions have happened after 1950. And actually more than half of emissions occurred since 1990. And I was born in the 80s, so this is really a problem. Most of the problems happened during my lifetime. And moving forward to slide 15, of this problem within one generation. The IPCC report that came out in October 2018 said that to stay with a chance of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees, that would require us to start reducing emissions immediately and to reach net zero by 2050. That's why everyone talks about net zero 2050. And funnily enough, technically my retirement year will be about 2049, 2050. And so, this is a problem of our generation. For those of us on this call, on this conference, we will be the generation that has to solve this problem. Now, moving on to slide 16, the good news is we're making lots of progress. We at BNEF, we track, we estimated there were $500 billion invested in energy transition last year, and that number is growing very quickly. But to reach net zero by 2050, moving on to slide 17, we need to be talking about trillions of dollars per year, all the way every year to 2050. And the numbers differ. We think it's between 2 to 4 trillion per year. IEA says 2 trillion just for the power sector. Energy Transitions Commission says 1.5 to 1.8 trillion per year. Lots of different estimates out there. But the point is that $500 billion per year, 500 billion is not enough. And we need to be talking about trillions per year if we're going to get to net zero. In other words, and this is my final slide, my final message is, we really do need to move much faster. So I'll leave you with that. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
That's okay.
And thank you very much for your...
Albert Chung, thank you so much. And next time, it's a deal in Lisbon and not in London. Thank you. Hope to see you soon. And we go on with this debate and to talk about the future of energy, some ideas that we got from him. We can talk with the next guests. Susana Quintana Plaza, CEO of Galp Energy. Bem-vinda. Welcome. And João Rodrigues, General Manager of Schneider Electric. It's live from our feed. João Rodrigues, welcome. Bom dia.
Bom dia. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Welcome. So,
hope that you hear me.
Okay, perfectly. No problem in the connection. So let's start about this. Susana, we heard all the time, clean energy, it's the future. Green is the future. It's a problem of a generation. Is that what the companies like yours think about right now? Do you feel the pressure that you have to move quickly, faster on that direction?
So definitely, I don't want to talk about what will be announced in the coming months.
You can do that, and the revenue.
But as you may know, we have a new CEO, and we have been going through a major strategy review, and there will be some very good announcements in that direction. That said, though, Galp is already committed to that, so we're just going to be more aggressive going forward. Last year, we made the largest M&A transaction in the history of the company, and it was not in oil and gas. It was in renewable energy. So we have been going in the last 2 years from 16 megas to, we're close now to 4.2 gigas of renewable power, and we are now moving internationally. So the commitment is super, super strong. We are very clear, and we don't see it as a threat, we see it as an opportunity. We just heard from Albert, this is $1 trillion opportunity, and I think we are extremely well positioned to do that. And I would also say something maybe I was missing on Albert's presentation, and this is not only about large-scale renewables, this is also about decentralized energy. And I'm a true believer that in 10 years from now, every single rooftop in Portugal will have a solar panel. And also we have launched Energía Independiente, a completely new company, developing the technological tools for people to be their own producers and their own prosumers. And the uptake that we've seen in the market is insane. I mean, in 6 months, we have gone from getting started to 3 million revenues to thousands of installations. So we see a very bright future for Galp on this.
When I was talking about pressure, is because of that. I mean, the consumers are demanding that.
Yes.
And if you don't get it, they choose another company. So,
João,
it's the same question. I mean, do you feel also that the clean energy and the green as a future, as a generation problem, we need that. We need to save our planet. But at the same time, it's a good business. It's the future. Is that the way?
Yes. So for sure, that is a good business, and it's a business that we are dealing and we are obviously completely involved. João, if you don't mind, I will try to slightly correct you. It's not a problem to save the planet. It's the problem to save our way of living, right?
Right.
So I will say that we are not putting in risk the planet. We are putting in risk our lives. Society is in risk. So, yeah.
So do you feel that kind of pressure? I mean, this is a worldwide pressure. And in what way the pandemic changed this business and this sector of energy?
I will say that the pandemic didn't change, but accelerate, okay? So in our opinion, the pandemic only put more pressure on the tough questions. We need to see the biggest risk that we are facing is the climate changes. And having the benefit of having read seeing the presentation from Albert, I was prepared to try to introduce slides insight to him, but Susana already gave me the pleasure to reinforce that. Another trend that we will be observing is the decentralization of energy, right? In the roofs, in our homes, wherever it needs. So we are here to discuss about the future of energy, and we heard from the previous speakers that it's better don't try to guess everything, otherwise we will be in the failing main of your guesses. I will take the risk of guessing only a specific thing. Future will be electric. Albert has said this very clearly, and Susanna already referred. So, a technological provider like Schneider, we don't produce equipments that produce the energy, neither the consumers. We are in the middle. I used to joke saying that we are in the between, managing energy, guaranteeing that we are using the energy in the best way possible, working in both sides of the equation, reducing the consumption and guaranteeing that we are having more renewable energy. We are on the good way. So I'm positive on that. I prefer to say that on behalf of future generations, we need to act now. We need to accelerate. In this, I am 100% agreed with Albert. So in this kind of communities, end users, technological providers, we are in the right way to collaborate and to guarantee the future of our society.
Susanna, when we talk about the consumers, and because we have old generation but new generations, and they are showing us what they want because they are worried about the planet, what's going to be the future of energy in terms of solutions? It's self-made solutions for each consumer, because consumers have different kind of needs. So we can't speak about gas or electricity or hydrogen. It's kind of, you choose the kind of consumer that you want. It's the future.
So for me, it's the future of energy is not going to be anymore about gas or anything like that, because it's going to be about renewables, yeah. So that's clear. Also, I think once you have renewables in the system, it has to be a completely new system.
Like what? What?
Well, I mean, before supply, follow demand. In the future, demand will follow supply, because you will charge, you will run your equipment when the sun or the wind is there. But again, going back to the topic of decentralization, that I am a huge believer. I used to say when I was working for a German utility a long time ago, it's like the future is not only about decarbonization. The future of electricity is about decarbonization, digitalization, and decentralization. Why? Because in the past, to be a utility or to be an energy company, you require billions. If you didn't have billions, you didn't play. Because a gas plant, a coal plant require billions. What happens with wind? With wind, it's not only about the CO2. It's about, now you only need millions. So there's lots of people that can deploy millions to be an energy producer. And the beauty of decentralized energy is you don't need neither billions nor millions. You need thousands, or if you have a rooftop, you can even get a loan and be an energy producer. So each consumer will decide, according to their needs, what kind of prosumer they want to be. And that's exactly, let me go back to EI, that's why we have created these digital tools, not just to sell solar panels to everyone, but to say, okay, for your needs, for your house, for what you have, what kind of decentralized energy sizing you need. Do you need a battery? You don't need a battery. Do you want to manage your energy in order to improve not only the CO2 footprint, but also the economics?
So tailor-made solutions like that.
100% tailor-made solution, that's the center of EI. And I would say also the whole electricity system will be at the end microgrids and solar communities. So I think there is a huge opportunity there to really create exactly what you need, and that's exactly what EI is working on.
And we are in this Congress in technological. We are discussing technology here, so this is a conference about technology. In what way are you using the new technology towards these goals?
So 100%. So the first thing that we did when we started here, we said this is not going to be a brick and mortar company. This is a company who's going to use digital tools in order to map our markets, to decide which rooftops are the most suitable ones, to be able to design online with you what system fits to your needs, and to be able to provide you the savings that you need specific for you. And one thing very important to say, again, this is not only about CO2, it's also about economics. We are seeing here in Portugal, the average household can save up to 30% of the electricity bill, and with their system, in 5 years, they can pay back the system, save 30% on the energy bill, and still have another system running for 25 years. Next phase is to provide batteries for those that make sense. Next phase is to provide digital tools in order to manage your electricity, as I said, to be consuming when you are producing and try to minimize the footprint and maximize your savings. So today already is a super clear case for the consumer.
João, the same question, and I was wondering about our homes here in Portugal. We have a huge problem. It's the way that we heat the house, or how we feel very warm there, but we have problems with the windows and all that kind of problems, basic problems. So how can we change for a more better ways of energy if most of the homes in Portugal have these kind of problems, like keeping the warm inside, for instance?
Okay, very good question. And so many topics that we already
Yeah, we don't have so much time, so go on.
Can I have 2 hours? I will not have.
No, you have 2 minutes.
Sure. So, 2 minutes. Okay, I will do my best. So, in order to try to answer directly to your question, first of all, I think it's very good to be aware about the situation. We have programs, we have really conditions, we have support from banks and also from, including now from the European Union, to upgrade our houses, our buildings. In the previous slot of our Congress, we heard about that 15% of the CO2 emissions came from cars. Let's remember that 40% of global CO2 emissions came from buildings. So climate change will be fought in cities. That's our message. And it's very possible, and as Susanna just referred, to reduce dramatically the level of energy consumption on buildings. To return to specific comment that Susanna already did, she referred to the 3Ds, the digitalization, decentralization, decarbonization. If you allow me, I will add it a 4D, democratization of the technologies. The technologies nowadays are much cheaper compared to, I will say, a few years ago. And it's really possible with technologies, with softwares, with data, to take care from our building, from our industry, from our infrastructures in order to reduce the consumption. At the same time, it's also very possible to, with the support of softwares, to manage the infrastructures that distributed the energy. Also, we have conditions in Portugal, and sorry to be talking so fast, but it's to try to respect your 2 minutes. New business models that are arriving. Microgrids, already referred by Susanna, energy communities, aggregators of producers, aggregators of consumers, prosumers. Everything will be available to us. Part of these specific new business models are already legislated. So I think in this particular case, Portugal is really ready to start this revolution of using our energy. So why not to start now and fast?
Okay, so you are here and you represent 2 different companies. Susanna, how can you show to the consumer that you are different from the others? I mean, this is a huge competitive market. So what differentiates your company from the others? What's the way?
So the short story is tailor-made solutions using software and digitalization. So we are really not just selling solar panels, we are selling something that specifically you need for your own use. And also very important for us, we have launched a new brand and a new company, an independent company, not to be restricted by, let's say, the traditional ways of working and the traditional technologies and the traditional IT systems. So since the first day, we have said you are a complete entrepreneurial team. You can run, you can do whatever you need, and just make sure that whatever you design is exactly what the consumer wants. We don't want you to design what Galp wants. We want you to design what the consumer wants, and you need to adapt to what the consumer needs are. And I think the fact of having done it independently in an entrepreneurial company has enabled us to make a completely different approach to the market, to differentiate ourselves and to be the leaders. And from what we're seeing right now, the growth is going to put us in the leadership position very soon.
Thank you. João, just 30 seconds. I'm teasing you. Very quick. What's the difference your company can show that it's different from the others? What's the way?
Well, the best way to be recognized from the others is from customers, and fortunately we have a long experience of being succeeded with all types of customers, all types of activities. For us, it's very important to understand that one size fits all. No. For each specific segment, we define a unique value proposition based on technologies and products and softwares and services that are specifically designed for each customer, for each segment. That's our way to differentiate from the market and the other competitors.
João Rodrigues, Susana Quintana Plaza, it was a pleasure, both of you, to have here. Next time we speak in Portuguese and Spanish, whatever, but go on. Two Portuguese and one Spanish person speaking in English. Thank you so much and hope to see you soon. And now, agora passar para português, e a ver se eu não me engano, e agora vamos falar de outro tema nesta conferência da APDC, muito importante nos nossos dias. Cristina Esteves.
É verdade, extremamente relevante neste mundo digital. Falamos de diversidade e igualdade. Vai estar aqui a Secretária de Estado da Cidadania e Igualdade, Rosa Monteiro, mas antes convido-o a ver um pequeno vídeo.